For decades, this is how we've remembered her. A beautiful, bubbly, and completely devoted servant to a man. The nod, the blink, the puff of pink smoke, and that iconic phrase, "Yes, master?" I Dream of Jeannie, which first aired in 1965, seemed to be the ultimate male fantasy sitcom. An astronaut, Tony Nelson, crashes on a deserted island and finds a bottle. Inside is a gorgeous, powerful Genie, who exists only to serve him. On the surface, it's a show that feels totally out of step with modern values, a relic of a bygone, pre-feminist era. But what if we've been looking at it all wrong? What if the real magic of I Dream of Jeannie wasn't in her bottle, but in the subtle ways she defied the very world that tried to contain her? While I Dream of Jeannie appeared to be a simple comedy about a subservient magical being, looking closer shows how Jeannie's choices and use of magic consistently subverted the 1960s gender roles it seemed to uphold. This wasn't just a story about a slave, but a story about a woman with immense power navigating a world that constantly tried to limit her. The gag wasn't just that she was a genie. The real, enduring gag was on the patriarchal structures she playfully dismantled from within. Okay, let's get to the elephant in the room: the master-servant dynamic. Jeannie calls Tony Nelson master and is technically bound to his will. It's a premise that, through a modern lens, can seem problematic, and some retrospective critiques have labeled the show as sexist. Yet, from the very first episode, the show plays with this dynamic. After Tony finds her, he's so grateful for her help in his rescue that he tells her she's free. But Jeannie, having fallen for him, decides to sneak back into his life by rolling her bottle into his duffel bag. This moment is foundational. She doesn't stay because she has to. She stays because she wants to. A choice rooted in love rather than obligation. This reframes her actions throughout the series. Her supposed servitude becomes more of a playful performance. Jeannie constantly defies Tony's orders, creatively misinterprets his wishes, and uses her magic to do what she thinks is best. More often than not, her magical mistakes are just thinly veiled attempts to get her own way, whether it's sabotaging Tony's dates with other women or trying to expose her own existence. Far from being a passive servant, Jeannie is the one who truly runs the household and, in many ways, Tony's life. She's the one with all the power. And the men in the show, from the perpetually flustered Tony to the bumbling Dr. Bellows, are often just reacting to the chaos she creates. She demonstrates that a woman can appear to be playing a secondary role on the surface, while in reality, holding all the cards. In the landscape of 1960s television, the magicom was a popular trope, most famously embodied by another sitcom, Bewitched. But comparing the two shows reveals a profound difference in their approach to female power. On Bewitched, Samantha is a witch who marries a mortal man, Darren, who constantly insists that she suppress her powers and live a normal life. Her magic is a source of marital friction, something to be hidden and controlled. I Dream of Jeannie takes a different path. While Tony also wants Jeannie to keep her powers a secret, mostly to protect his NASA career, her magic does not threaten him in the same way Darren is. Her antics often amuse him, and he even enjoys the results of her powers when they aren't getting him thrown in a psychiatric ward. Unlike Darren, Tony isn't trying to change who Jeannie is at her core. He's just trying to manage the fallout. More importantly, Jeannie's magic acts as a potent metaphor for female agency in a world that offered women very few outlets for it. The 1960s housewife was expected to find fulfillment in domestic duties. Jeannie performs these duties, but with a blink of her eyes. She mocks the drudgery of housework by accomplishing it instantly and invisibly. Her magic is her ultimate tool of resistance against the mundane expectations placed on her gender. It allows her to control her environment, solve problems the master of the house cannot, and live a life of leisure and creativity that was denied to most women of her time. While Samantha on Bewitched was pressured to become a conventional housewife, Jeanie used her powers to reject that role entirely, all while keeping up the appearance of fulfilling it. It's this use of power that makes the show so fascinating to re-examine. We see these characters and their fantastical abilities, but often miss the deeper commentary they might be making. And that brings up a question for you all. What's your favorite magicom or supernatural sitcom, and do you see any hidden meanings in it now? Let me know in the comments below, and if you're enjoying this deep dive into classic TV, make sure to subscribe for more content like this. To really get I Dream of Jeannie, we have to place it in its historical context. The show premiered in 1965, just 2 years after Betty Friedan published her groundbreaking book, The Feminine Mystique. Friedan gave a name to the problem that has no name, a widespread feeling of dissatisfaction experienced by American housewives who were told that their only fulfillment could be found in marriage and motherhood. The book was a catalyst for the second-wave feminist movement, which challenged the very idea of a woman's place being solely in the home. I Dream of Jeannie was born right into this period of cultural change. The show both reflects and resists the feminist ideas that were starting to bubble up in society. On one hand, you have Jeanie, a woman of immense power who, through her magic, bypasses domestic labor and often outsmarts the men around her, a subtle nod to the idea that women are capable of more than society allows. On the other hand, the show could be dismissive of these new ideas. A first-season episode, The Americanization of Genie, is a perfect example. In it, Jeanie reads a magazine article about how to be a modern American woman, stops doing housework, and tries to be more independent, with disastrously comedic results. By the end, she abandons these attempts, and the whole idea is treated as a silly fad. This episode shows how network television at the time often sought to contain and poke fun at emerging feminist ideas, reassuring audiences that the traditional order was just fine. This contradiction is at the heart of the show. It's also visible in the bizarre censorship battles behind the scenes. Network executives and producer Sidney Sheldon famously had a no belly button rule for Barbara Eden's costume. While her harem outfit was undeniably alluring, the exposure of her navel was deemed a step too far for television. This prudishness, typical of the era, extended to other areas. Physical intimacy was strictly restricted, and there was a conscious effort to avoid any implication that Jeanie might stay overnight in Tony's bedroom. The show existed in this strange limbo, selling a sanitized male fantasy version of female sexuality, while simultaneously being terrified of it. So, how do we make sense of a show that is, by turns, subversively feminist and openly anti-feminist? Perhaps that's its true genius. I Dream of Jeannie wasn't a deliberate feminist manifesto. It was a commercial sitcom trying to be funny and popular. Yet, in doing so, it accidentally created a character far more complex than her premise suggested. Jeanie was a walking, talking, blinking contradiction. She was a servant who was really the master, a domestic goddess who never did housework, a magical being who exposed the absurdities of modern gender roles just by being herself. The show presents her age as 2,000 years old, though the series itself is sometimes inconsistent on the details of her backstory. She performed subservience with a wink and a nod, using the patriarchal expectations of her master as a playground for her own desires. She showed that power doesn't always have to be overt. Sometimes, The greatest power lies in playing a role so well that no one realizes you're actually running the show. The image of the bubbly genie in a bottle is what we remember. Still, the reality was a character who was constantly pushing at the boundaries of that bottle, finding clever and magical ways to assert her agency. She may have answered to "Master," but, as Barbara Eden has often summarized, Jeanie was a powerful entity who stayed with Tony out of love, not submission. In that playful rebellion, a simple 60s TV gag became an enduring, if unintentional, feminist statement. What other classic shows might deserve a second look? What other characters have we underestimated? Let me know your thoughts. Thanks for watching.